we have speaking to you is, this is Bryan Trocquet. He works for Worley Parsons, which is an engineering firm. So he's going to share with you some details about his career and how he got where he is today.
Thank you, Ms. Trocquet. Well, thanks for having me. I know that you all are really wondering, as you go through high school, what the next steps are for moving into the field of engineering. I'll give you a perspective from a guy who's been doing it for 37, 38 years, and started out in probably the same place you are, and get some good information about an area where there's a lot of opportunity here in the United States, and particularly in Texas, in the oil and gas business. So I do work for Worley Parsons Group, which is one of the largest engineering services companies in the world. But it was a long journey getting there, and not sure where I'm going next. But in any case, let me share some good info with you. And by the way, this is not a one-way presentation. Very much want this to be interactive dialogue. So if you got any questions, seriously raise your hand. It's a chance for you to get some good information and you know, take that as you guys go forward into your next steps. So, some of you at least want to be an engineer. So, if you look at my business card, it's the one I hand out now. I work for Worley Parsons, as I said. I'm a business unit general manager for downstream chemicals business. So, what is that all about? Well, downstream, clearly in the simplest terms, is the other end of upstream. The upstream in the oil and gas business is where you guys traditionally see the drilling wells and rigs going to the field and the subsurface reservoir type work. The downstream is after those products come to the surface, then they go into what we'll call the product development piece of the value chain. But in any case, I'm the business unit general manager. What does that mean? I'm the boss. We basically have a team of engineers, 2,000 engineers, that perform various different tasks. And I'll tell you a bit more about how I got there. And I'm not saying everybody wants to go there, but you can start out as an engineer and no telling where you can end up in your career. So, get some things off the table. Yes, Ms. Trocquet is my bride. You all probably figured that out. And yes, let's get this off the table. Yes, Coach Dan Trocquet is my son. Some things you all may not have known is that, of course, there he is today with his lovely wife. He also is a teacher at Cy Ridge Woods, sorry. But probably don't know is he used to play for Cy Creek, number 21 on the basketball team. Had banners in the gym. He was part of that team. So let's go back to the beginning. So where did my career start? It started in New Orleans back in 1977. I graduated from the University of New Orleans with a Bachelor of Science degree in mechanical engineering. Yes, it was really tough. And whether you go to LSU, Texas A&M, Georgia Tech, just might as well get used to the fact that there is a weeding out filtering process, and the curriculum is tough. And really the difference in schools is it's really about, you know, tuition and what you like, but from a curriculum perspective, you're going to find all the disciplines tough to go through. So it's just some of the things that I got involved with is kind of the core curriculum was, yeah, a whole lot of math. And then when you just think you had your fill of math, a whole lot more math, okay? And then physics, thermodynamics is a key part. Structure and properties of materials. AutoCAD, of course when I did it there was no AutoCAD, there was drafting, and then computer science. A lot of that has changed, I know, as we go currently. But this is kind of the core for mechanical engineering. There's other things, electronics, electrical engineering. There's several other areas that you get involved with, but that will vary from discipline to discipline. Okay. Any questions? So what happened after that? Well, I graduated, and fortunately, as is probably still the case for a lot of people in the engineering world, before you get out of school, you've already got job offers. And in this industry, that's it's still a good place to be from a career. I work for a company which really doesn't exist anymore in Lafayette, Louisiana, called Amoco Corporation. And the first thing that happens when you're an engineer, you think that, oh, okay, you're going to go design something. Well, you need to get familiar with the company. So the first thing that happened to me, I came to work and they gave me a hard hat, attached me to a more senior guy, and said, you're going to the field. So what that means is, yep, you get on boats and you go places, you go, what am I doing out here? Or you go out into the Gulf of Mexico by boat or helicopter, and you're going to spend a lot of time out understanding the real world of taking these theoretical concepts from design into execution, into real operations, and really understand how operations for business goes. So, that started in 1977. Well, today, some of those names have changed, but there's still a lot of them around that were back in 1977. Exxon was Exxon, and Mobil was Mobil, so now they've merged. Amoco was Amoco, it got absorbed by BP, Chevron's around, Shell, ConocoPhillips. Total, it's a French company. The message I'm trying to give you is these are companies that maybe you've recognized some of these names, but there's other names that are coming up, big companies like BG Group. Used to be British Gas, they've merged and split. Repsol's a Spanish company. Anadarko's up in the Woodlands now. There's a big development up there by ExxonMobil near the Woodlands. Anadarko's a major developer of oil and gas globally. And just right around here, you'll see on 249, Noble Energy. And then you've got what we call the national oil companies, another whole group of customers that really are owned by the states, the countries in which they operate. Brazil, China, this is Nigeria, this is Malaysia. There are opportunities, and some of you all may know people that work for these national oil companies. So, and some of you may have the opportunity to do that as you go further. But there are many different what we call oil and gas owners. From Worley Parsons side, these are our customers, or some of our customers. So what types of engineers do those customers really look for? Either to hire them directly or to use them through the services companies. And this is just I call it the core sample of the types of engineering personnel that pretty much will move right into some part of that organization. At the top of the list is the petroleum engineers. Then you have the chemical engineers, which are really process type engineers, refining and petrochemicals and liquefaction, regasification process, all types of processes involving the products and fluids. Then there's the mechanical engineer. That's about rotating equipment and exchangers, and civil and structural. That's clearly related to building the structure around some of these projects and building foundations. Then you've got the electrical instrumentation and control, governing and monitoring the system. And then today, a very important area is environmental performance, air quality and emissions control. And then equally important is the whole issue of safety. So these are some of the key areas that I would suggest are areas that you guys might want to explore before you lock down where you're going to go into your next stage of your career. Any questions? I can tell you more. So let's set the record straight. There's plenty of opportunities in the oil and gas industry of engineers, but there's plenty of opportunities for people beyond engineering. This industry is not just about engineers. Yeah, there's a need for geologists and geophysicists. The engineers are really kind of step two. Step one is finding the oil and gas production. And then there's field operations. Eventually, after all the designs completed and the facilities are built, somebody has to go out there 24 hours a day on shift and maintain those facilities and operate those assets. Then you have the financial, legal side of the business, very important side of the business. We have several engineers that are now attorneys. There's quite a few that go from engineering world, and then later in their career they move into the commercial legal side of the business. And that's a very good transition. And then clearly human resources, the people side of the business as well. So back to my story. So what happened is from 1977, when I joined Amoco, now BP, my education didn't really stop. In 1977, first thing happened, I went to the field for a couple of months. The second thing happened, they took my hard hat off and says, now you're going back to school. So in the business of oil and gas, you're going to learn about the production and exploration fundamentals, how wells are drilled, how they're completed, how you take existing wellbores and you recomplete them and you work them over and you improve their performance. How do you optimize field production to maximize revenue and minimize cost? How do you control the flow of wells, drilling wells and production wells? There's some serious hazardous safety issues, as we all remember what happened a while back in the Gulf of Mexico. And then there's a real important focus on safety consciousness. So there's a whole lot more training. You can see that was about another 3 years of pretty intense training before I was ready to even touch anything. So let's keep going. So from 77 to 99, I said, oh, this is great. I'm going to finish my career at Amoco. So started that field engineer. Then my first relocation to Lafayette happened, and I went back to New Orleans. Went back to Lafayette, stayed there a little while, kept moving up the ranks, learning more and more about engineering, started supervising engineers. And then all of a sudden, they said, hey, you're doing a good job, we're going to get you out of engineering. We're sending you up to the headquarters in Chicago. Spent a few years there, learned about the financial side of the business, then was brought back down to strategic planning, moving further away from engineering. So as you get a good foundation in engineering, there's plenty more opportunities for you to go. And then you move to other places in the world. My family and I relocated in an expatriate assignment down south of Venezuela. And then I was brought back into buying and selling companies. So again, the message is, if you want to be an engineer, you can. If you want to transition, it's a good place to start from, and there's plenty of opportunities beyond pure engineering. So as things happen, you always expect the unexpected. So Amoco was a multi-billion-dollar corporation, one of the big guys right next to ExxonMobil. Nobody would take us over, except for a company like BP in 1999. There was a corporate merger that took place. So here are some of the words of advice. Words of advice number one. There's no such thing as a guaranteed job for life. So wherever you start working for, as an engineer or otherwise, you really need to keep that in mind. If not, you'll be severely disappointed. So you're always looking for the best job for you. And it doesn't mean that you necessarily leave the company to update at real time. You can never update it too much. Keep it with you electronically. The other thing is critical, is network with people. I mean, follow your buddies to other jobs, stay in touch with them, and meet people in the industry. Some of the conferences you guys is even, I'll call it, young students that want to be engineers. There's major conferences in Houston, Texas, where you can begin that network. The Offshore Technology Conference has a day where they invite students to come in. It's a great place for you to learn about the industry. And then the best time to find a job is while you're employed. So that's why you need to keep networking and keep looking for those jobs. Words of advice number two is you never burn bridges. You never know when or where you're going to run into and cross paths with some people from your past that can be of help to you. So resist that temptation to create enemies, because they're important for things like promotions within your company, job leads, introductions, references. So my career then moved to the other side of engineering, which is really where, for most of the business, the engineering actually is done in the oil and gas business. A lot of the majors have some engineering capabilities, but they go to what we call the services contractors for that business. And in my career, I worked as an independent consultant. I did that with a few other individuals. But then I moved to one of the major engineering houses called Wood Group Mustang, based here in Houston, now in Scotland. They do all types of engineering. I'm going to tell you more about that. And then about 3 years ago, I moved to Worley Parsons. These are large corporations, 30 to 40,000 people worldwide, plenty of opportunities. Many engineers go straight from school into work for these companies, into a mentoring program. But as you move into the services sector, typically our clients are looking for more experienced people. So there is an internal education and capabilities growing that has happen if you work in the services industry. But it's a great place to work. So what do those companies do? Design things. They procure things. They buy, they develop specification packages, and they go out to manufacturers, and with the owner's money, they buy stuff. And they move that stuff to the sites. and they get aligned with the construction and installation and commissioning. Commissioning is where you actually take a completed facility and you start it up for the first time, and you run through the processes and you make sure everything works like the first time you start that car off an assembly line. Then you have to operate those facilities for many, many years, 30, 40 years. And then improve is, there is also a business for taking existing facilities that are older and revamp those. So what kind of things do? You do feasibility studies in early stages, options. You do front-end engineering and design. That's a quality of engineering to plus or minus 15% estimate quality. And then you do detail design, which is really inside of 10% quality, where you start procuring equipment and contracts. Then you do what's called project management consulting. There's a whole area of business where engineers represent the client with the contractors. And then we already talked about procurement, constructing. There's engineers that actually work for companies that build facilities and fabricate and do operations and maintenance. So what are some of the types of projects that you can get involved with? I'll show you a few pictures here. This is a petrochemical plant. So what is that about? You take natural gas and some of its products and you make something called methanol. You make something called ammonia and urea for fertilizers. You make something called olefins and polyolefins, which go into make polypropylene. All intermediate products for plastics and other types of products come from petrochemicals plants. There are major petrochemicals plants in the Gulf of Mexico, in the Gulf Coast. A lot of engineering jobs are available in that sector of the market. Then there's the oil refining business down in Texas City, up in Whiting, Venezuela. This is where you take the crude oil and you process it, and outside come all types of products. Engineers design these facilities. So here's words of wisdom number 3. Overachieve. In our business, I cannot overemphasize how important it is to differentiate yourself day one coming in to show you'll do whatever it takes. Take your responsibility very seriously every day. These are billions of dollars in facilities, and your teammates, however old they are or young they are, they're counting on you from doing your job well. And I have seen hundreds of engineers come through, and some have been overachievers day one, have been major successes. Some have just disappeared into the background and you never really see them again. So this industry is very competitive. It's a great place to overachieve. Catch 3 balls if you can. So here's some more projects. This is an FPSO. That's a floating production, storage, and offloading vessel. And what does that mean? Well, not all oil and gas is found onshore. Sometimes it's found in 2,000 to 3,000 feet of water in the Gulf of Mexico or off the coast of Africa. And you have to, somebody has to design these facilities, the topsides and the hulls and the containment systems for taking oil from subsea infrastructure. This subsea infrastructure is the same type of infrastructure that you have onshore, except it's all below the water. And it feeds into these vessels. And these vessels basically produce, store, and offload oil into oil tankers and to gas carriers. These are designed by big engineering houses. So this is a great area of the business right now. There's plenty of floating solutions and floating structures, not just hull shape, but also semi-submersibles and all type of jacket type structures that feed this offshore and deep water environment. It's a great opportunity, especially here in Houston. Words of wisdom number 4. Be responsible. In this business, again, with very, very aggressive schedules, I mean, all types of financial decisions based on meeting deadlines. Do what you're going to say and do it when you're going to say you're going to do it. People are counting on you. And in this industry, those that show more responsibility get more freedom. Those that don't show responsibility are kept close to the side. They get wondering, why am I here? So again, be responsible, be committed, be professional, and overachieve. That's the best message as you come into this industry. It's also the best message as you go into engineering school. It's a very competitive place to be. So, more projects. Another part of the business is the pipeline industry, onshore and offshore pipelines. These are designed with a whole lot of specialty expertise in mind. You can see here's an example. This is a natural gas pipeline, and pressure, temperature, length, volume, types of product that put it in all affects what type of design goes in here. Another area that's very popular now in North America is LNG exports. Liquefied natural gas. There's major facilities along the Gulf Coast that are being designed for export of gas. And this takes a very special type of engineer. Several in the cryogenic world. Cryogenic engineering is all about designing facilities to withstand temperatures minus 160 degrees C. So you take natural gas and you turn it into a liquid, store it on some of these LNG carriers, and move it to another market the other side of the world, and put heat in it and vaporize it and put it back as a gas. These are multi-billion-dollar facilities, have very important safety issues, all require very experienced and capable engineers and young engineers. This is where I've spent a lot of my time in the last several years in the LNG business. They're in short order very capable type people. There's a lot of opportunity here. The closer you can get to disciplines for LNG, that would be a good move. Where's the wisdom number 5? You're not going this alone in your job. Seek input from others, okay? There's no I in team. So all I can tell you is in school, there's a lot of work you're going to do in teams. That's to prepare you for in the real world. Everything is done as a team. There's very little individual effort at all. So you're going to feel all these feelings, and all I can tell you is reach out and network with your buddies. You might as well start it now because it's going to be critical to your success. More types of projects. There's a thing called unconventional oil and gas. You guys probably hear about this in Texas and up in Pennsylvania, and that hydraulic fracturing. They drill wells from the surface, and when they get to a certain depth, they turn that well bore horizontal and drill that well and basically fracture this reservoir so it produces oil, whereas in a traditional way it never would have flowed. There's a whole lot more development in oil and natural gas in this industry. That's going to be here for a long time. Petroleum engineers, facilities engineers are very popular in this industry, and can't have enough of them right now. The United States is becoming the largest exporter of oil in the world now, overtaking the Middle East because of the unconventional oil and gas. Many of the majors are looking for good people in this area. And a lot of the product, as I've already talked about, has to be exported, and that's where ports and marines facilities come in. A lot of structural, civil engineers, naval architects, all those types of disciplines are real important in revamping and building new export facilities for these major LNG carriers and export vessels to move to the other side of the world. Great opportunities there. My last word of wisdom is, you know what? Just do something. It's important that when you leave school here, whether it's engineering or whether it's be a geologist or get into finance or project controls or human resources, just do something and do your best at whatever it is. And I tell this to my staff all the time is don't ask somebody to do something you would be willing to do yourself. In this industry, to really have the right kinds of relationship, you have to be focused on being part of the team and expecting from others what you would do, and leadership is about stepping up and showing that sometimes. So, in any case, that's really the story I had to tell you guys. It's a lot less technical about the details of engineering. It's really about a career, which is now 38 years in this industry, starting from engineering and now to the other side of it. It's a great place for you guys to explore your career paths, and what I would tell you is if you're here, it's a good first start. That's my most important message to you guys. Thank you very much. Any questions? Anybody have anything? Does anybody have any family or friends that work for any of those companies that I've showed? parents or brothers or sisters, or does this story sound similar to what you guys have heard? Is that at least in this part of the industry, a lot of what you're going to experience early in your career is moving. Very unlikely you're going to stay in one place. So where you go to school doesn't necessarily mean that's where you're going to end up for the rest of your career back in that community. So, you know, those that go to the University of Houston probably won't end up staying in Houston most of their career. This industry will take you around the world. So, and your engineering background really will carry you a lot of places. Any other questions? Yes, sir. I did not have an internship when I was in high school. Well, I had a full-time job. Unfortunately, it wasn't in the oil and gas business, but that's very commonplace now. I would tell you as a first step, especially when you guys are in high school, is at least start the dialogue with some of the companies online. You know, there are places where you can go for information about internships. A lot of it in this space, the internships start when you're in university. When you get to your junior year, sometimes sophomore year, they'll come in. But in the high school area, it's probably a little tougher, but it is something you should start exploring now. By the time you get to your junior year, I would say you should be pretty familiar with where those internship opportunities are. And start networking, sure doesn't hurt. I just think it'll be a little soon to get close in high school. Anybody else? That's pretty good on timing. 40 minutes on 45. So left a few extra minutes. So one other thing that's important for you guys to understand about engineering is there's different stages of engineering. I'm off the agenda now. You know, most of these facilities are multi-billion-dollar facilities, and you just don't one day design the project and then finance the project and build the project. There's many stages of refinement of engineering, from conceptual stage, which is what we call a lower quality engineering design, where you take the quality of the design and estimate from plus or minus 40%, and then you take it to feed, which is plus or minus 15% quality. It's a lot more engineering, and eventually you take it to that detailed design or issue for construction level, which is your plus or minus 10%. That's where the numbers of engineers go up big time. So the other thing that's interesting about engineering now is it is not all done in one location. There's a much more shared engineering and work share between offices. Like here in Houston, we have a major engineering house that we own in Beijing and Shanghai, where we have thousands of engineers that balance our engineering cost out. A lot of our clients are focused on getting costs very competitive, and quite frankly, it's hard to do unless you blend in what we call high-value engineering from places in India, China, Kuala Lumpur. So there are engineering opportunities outside of the United States for very capable, experienced engineers in other locations. So, okay. Unless you guys have anything else, good luck with your career, and I'll be available if anybody wants to ask any questions one-on-one. Let me know. Thank you for your time.